We're live. Good morning, everyone. It's April Jackson from Open Up, and this particular live stream podcast because we upload all of our live streams to podcast is happening in May. May is Asian American Pacific Islander month. I was trying to think of all they always got to lump us into some acronym. So shout out. What are you going to say, Wes?
No, absolutely. And it's Mental Health Awareness Month as well.
Yes, exactly. And this is great. I mean, it's a whole lot of other things too, but we really wanted to focus on Mental Health Awareness Month. And Sharise Nance is with us, and this is her expertise, mental health awareness. Not mental health awareness, but she's a therapist and does so much for the therapy community within Pittsburgh, meaning like she just had her swag awards, which you could share about as well, and her own business and whatnot. And she does a lot on compassion fatigue. So you may I remember her because she was on here before. And we've been inviting our Open Up board member, Astrid Arroyo, to come, and we finally got the dates to sync, and we're really excited to have her because she is a caregiver and does a whole lot of other stuff in addition to caregiving, and has been such an integral part of our Open Up community here in Pittsburgh and our Open Up team. Like, she's really a team member. So listen, you all, if you have questions around your mental health or are dealing with anything that you don't feel supported by, please.
You're on mute.
You went mute, but it's okay.
I unplugged the podcast mic. It automatically muted me. Do I sound different now?
Nope, you're good.
You're good.
Tech. But I was saying, like, if you have questions around your own mental health and want support or resources or whatnot, drop something in the chat and we can follow up with you around resources that we know. Wes is in Kansas City, we're in Pittsburgh, but even if you're somewhere else in Utah or whatever, we'll, try to give you some resources. And we were just talking this morning, I went for a walk. Sharise was talking about giving herself rest. I'm sure Wes maybe or maybe not did something.
No, not yet. But I was planning on going out for a push after this. Yeah, the bird's been chirping real good this morning. I want to go embrace that for a little bit.
Yeah, I know I'm not going to put you on the spot. I don't know if you, because usually Wes gets up at like 5, 6. Hitting the gym, lifting weights. I think Astrid's getting right over there. You have a routine, Astrid, when it comes to just trying to move your body?
Right now, I don't. I used to. I'm kind of like on the burnout phase of caregiving, which I'm sure we'll be talking about later. So I used to run, but I haven't due to injuries and lack of time because my son transitioned into adult services. So my schedule is different from what it was like 3 years ago when I was able to run. And also, again, injuries. So right now, yoga at the Open Up, the caregiver yoga, which, happens on every Tuesday at 10:30. So it's a nice way for me to actually get out of the house and go somewhere and then have some me time for an hour, and the classes are wonderful, and it's been right now at this moment in my life, it's been a lifesaver because it does gives me something to do and some movement. So that right now that's my routine. I'm hoping to get back into started walking again, maybe hiking, and hopefully eventually go back into running. So we'll see.
Maybe you and I both will get back into running, and Wes is willing. And we could, move our bodies. And you know what? We'll accept where we are no matter what's going on. Astrid, can you tell our community a little bit more about yourself, and then we'll go to Sharise?
Okay, well, I'm Astrid Arroyo, and I am a mom to two boys. One is 24 years old, and my youngest one is 23, and my youngest one just graduated from Pitt. So that was like a big event, and that was just, we're very proud. My 24-year-old is, he has autism, intellectual disabilities, and due to a copper deficiency, which caused neurological damage to him. He's in a wheelchair right now. He has limited use of his hands and feet, and he also has a feeding tube. So for the last 3 years, I've been his full-time caregiver. And I'm also part of the board at Open Up. I also do work here and there with the Latino Community Center and Autism Connection of PA as a parent mentor or a contractor, whatever they need me to do to help parents. But I'm mainly an advocate for my son and for other young adults with multiple disabilities. I also run a Facebook group called Amazing Young Adults, and we have about 250 members, of which are parents of young adults in the Allegheny County. And there's a few from other counties too that have, wander in. And I try to give as much resources as I can through that group to help parents navigate transition into adult services and other stuff, social events. I mean, I post whatever I can get my hands on that it's geared towards young adults and services and programming and resources and all that stuff. So that's pretty much it. So.
Thank you, Astrid. And I wanted to give a little story. We were at an organization, their facility. Well, I don't know if it's their facility, but the branch. Is that correct? The branch?
Yes.
And is that sponsored by the Jewish Community Center, or?
They used to be the Jewish Federation. I forget what the name was, but they used to be. So now they're the branch. So.
Well, my story is I went to, sit at a panel and just talk with the parents and everything. And Astrid, I think your husband and your son were there, and Astrid had to leave, and she came up, she was like, don't forget to tell them about the people in the yoga class. So when I say she's a proponent, like she's definitely a proponent. And yay for our Pitt grads. My son graduated too from Pitt. So Sunday we were with the 5,000 students that graduated.
Yeah, oh my God, And going back to the branch, I'm also the co-chair for the Family Forum, which is through the branch, and we meet every 2 months. And again, we provide support resources to other parents that are in the same situation as me. They're caring for their young adult. So.
Thank you.
I'm in a bunch of places, so at least I try.
You're doing an amazing job, and that's why we wanted you here. And Sharise is here again, everyone. And we say again because we typically ask people to come back because an hour seems like such a short time, right, Wes? And so when she was on, we're like, we want you to come back. And we've had a few guests return, which has been really exciting, and she agreed she could fit it in her schedule, and we thought it would be a great conversation to have on this platform to discuss an extension of what we had already started about compassion. We talked about compassion fatigue, which is more or less for those who are giving services to support people, right, Sharise, who are caregiving and whatnot, and we can also dive into what happens with caregiving. So go ahead. The floor is yours, Sharise. Reintroduce yourself, and
Thanks for having me back, and also held at Pitt. I'm an alumni of Pitt, Pitt School of Social Work. I absolutely love the program, especially everything that they've done to advance the program now for social workers, the diversity, and just their openness to including alumni in everything that they're doing. So I'm excited about that. And again, I'm Sharise Nance. I am a native of Pittsburgh, born and raised here. I grew up in Homewood, Highland Park, East Liberty area. And right now I am currently the co-founder of HandinHand Counseling Services. We've been around, we'll be celebrating 12 years. My partner Tess and I, we actually met in college. We were college roommates. worked at a lot of the same jobs in the same profession. She's a professional counselor. I'm a clinical social worker. And we've grown from a small office space that she and I were sharing when we worked our full-time jobs to a group practice where we have other therapists who are sharing their gifts. Group therapy, we're specializing in trauma. So we actually have a trauma focused program that people can be a part of: individual, family, and group counseling, depression, anxiety. We accept pretty much all of the major insurances as well as out of pocket payments. And also, I am the co-founder of and owner of Vitamin C Healing. I'm not selling vitamins. That is one of the main questions that I get asked, even though I try to subscribe to a healthy lifestyle. It's metaphoric for healing of the whole person, with the hopes that when people experience my services, they'll get the same feeling that they do with the nutrient vitamin C. And the focus is on those helping professionals and leaders and caregivers, entrepreneurs who are helping other people, serving other people, and find themselves exhausted, fatigued, burned out. So just creating spaces to support that, whether that's through facilitating workshops. And this is mainly business to business. I do a lot of work with other organizations through workshops, consultations, assessments. Supervisions are becoming a big thing to support their staff, to make sure they have the support that they need when they're out there serving families, helping them to become more aware of themselves, how what they bring to the table and bring in a room, like how that influences the relationship and influences how they show up. And just having more awareness of how the work is impacting them. Yes, we're going to help them with interventions and to develop in their professional journey, but just as important is focusing on how the work is impacting them. Because when I was in school, the focus was not on that at all. And even earlier in my career, it wasn't focused on that. There was no talk about burnout, compassion fatigue. It was just leave your bags at the door and serve the families. And that's it. And also, the SWAG Awards, the Social Worker Appreciation of Greatness Awards. My husband, Bill, actually came up with that acronym because I was complaining that social workers weren't getting recognized for their work. I've worked as a social worker in the field, in the community, alongside nurses, and nurses are amazing. I've worked with some great nurses, but no one was ever recognizing social workers for the work that we do. Many of us are underpaid, undervalued. And I'm like, how come these award ceremonies, I rarely see social workers on the list? And he's like, well, what are you going to do about it? And I'm like, we need to create something. You know, we got together and we honored social workers on social media, you know, just shouting them out. We got together for a small, just like happy hour, and they were excited, and they're like, well, what's next? And then when my husband came up with that, I'm like, oh, we can do an award ceremony. And so we created the Social Worker Appreciation of Greatness Awards right before COVID hit. 2019, there was excitement. We're getting sponsors, and we had everything paid. And in 2 weeks before the ceremony, everything shut down. So we had to shut it down. People were like, what are we going to do? I'm like, I don't know. I've never been through a pandemic before. We just kind of got to wait and see. But fortunately, the following year in 21, we were able to give people an online experience, and they appreciated it. And from 2022 forward, we've been able to host the event in person, and it just continues to grow. We have it in March during National Social Work Month. Every year we have a call for nominations. It's for the Pittsburgh area. We're expanding it to Westmoreland County just to test our reach, because eventually we want to grow as big as possible. But we understand that we don't want to do it too fast because, you know, people have to travel. But we're really excited about the direction. And from the SWAG Awards, you know, one of the biggest barriers has been getting sponsors, because even though the mission is very nonprofit and mission focused, it's still a for-profit. So we had a fiscal sponsor. Sometimes organizations aren't always on board with fiscal sponsors, and I've been fighting it. So we're working on our nonprofit arm, the Swag Alliance Foundation, and we are officially registered with the state, but we're just waiting on our 501(c) status. And this is about support all year round for social workers and, for other helping professionals. But the main focus is for social workers and just bridging that gap between for quality services, because a need that we're seeing is that a lot of social workers are leaving the profession. People are burned out, they're exhausted, they're fed up, they're underpaid, they're feeling undervalued. So it's like, okay, what can we do to make sure that we continue to add value to this profession, that we continue to keep good people? What can we do on our end? So we wanted to create this foundation to support them. And one of the biggest things was licensure, because to go far in this profession and to be quite honest, to make any money, you really do got to get a licensure. I mean, we're in school for all these years. We get a bachelor's degree, then we get a master's degree. We accrue all of this debt. Hopefully it'll be forgiven, but that might be another podcast. And then, now you got to take this test that costs $300. And if you fail, then you got to come up with another $300 and just keep paying until you pass. Well, we already don't make any money. Most of us don't make much money. So where is that money coming from? And it doesn't speak to, your skill set. So we want to create this foundation where we could foot that bill and bridge that gap, so that is not a barrier and doesn't discourage people from continuing this work that is needed. So that's just one thing. Advocacy, low to no cost trainings, CEU trainings, because we need continuing education credits in order to maintain our licenses and just to make sure that we're practicing from a place of competence. So just having this hub. So I'm going to need a lot of help, so reaching out to community for, different skill sets and gifts to have, trainers come in, mentors. There's a lot that we're going to need, and we're still, just working on putting all these things together. We finally got a board together. My husband is the COO. We have a treasurer, and we also have a secretary right now. So we're in the beginning phases, but we're really excited about that.
That's awesome. I will pass to Wes. And before that, two things stuck out. Astrid, you were so transparent in saying, I'm in a caregiving burnout phase. So I'm hoping we can talk about that. And then also Sharise, Open Up has been working on modules to focus, one, to help yoga teachers and people in mindfulness and teachers. But I was thinking it could be for social workers too. People can get it sponsored or paid for, but having some education around working in the disability community and working with those with disabilities. And I know with social work, like that's an integral part of support. And if the social workers are burned out and the caregivers are burned out and the person is burned out, it's this vicious cycle. So that's something that we can maybe talk about as well.
Yes.
All right. So, hey, Wes.
Thank you guys for sharing and introducing yourselves. Sharise, you letting the audience know again who you are. Definitely, you ladies are powerhouses. I just commend you for your work. Sharise, I had a question when it comes to the SWAG Awards. Again, great idea. I think it's amazing. What has been, because you're right. I mean, first of all, you're right. There's not a lot of acknowledgement, if any. Just for a person like myself that has a disability, I know the pressure the work puts on others, especially when, I feel like I'm definitely in a great state of mind now, but there was a time where I always just felt like I needed everyone else to serve me. And there was just a disconnect on me understanding the empathetic side, you know, of like, oh, these are human beings that you're working with, you know, like, and so I see it more now through my work, of just trying to tell individuals how to be more empathetic, how to see the people that you're working with, and so I guess my question is like, what has that been like for the individuals that you guys have awarded, represented? Like, how have they, like, does that give, because again, when we get awards and things, we know we're being seen, right? And we know being heard. And I just want, like, for anyone that's watching and probably just curious of that, like, why is that work important? And can you share maybe one, you know, testimony or something from an individual that maybe have received the award? I just really want that to be shared if possible.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's an excellent question. Interesting enough, I want to be totally transparent about that. When we started the award ceremony and we had our call for nominations and we were reaching out to the social workers who the nominations committee would be selected, there were a couple social workers that declined it. They're like, no, I appreciate this, but that's not why I do the work. I don't do the work for the accolades, for the recognition. And I'm like, okay. So I had to remember, I had to put myself back in that, because I'm a little bit removed from boots on the ground. I was in the field for over 20 years in the community, serving frontline for such a long time, but it's been a few years. So I had to put myself, at first I'm like, why wouldn't? Then I had to remember, I remember being that person. And, that's why I love my colleagues so much, because I know we don't do it for the accolades or the rewards or any of those things. And I also think that sometimes there's a guilt there that if I accept this reward or this award, will it come off as that's the reason why I'm doing this work, that it's more about the show and less about the work. And both can be true. And even if we look at the research shows that when people are recognized for their work, the burnout rate goes down. People, even it doesn't have to be this extravagant award ceremony, even if it's just, you know, thank you for that, or I appreciate when you did this, or I see you, I see your progress, I see how you show up. That goes a long way. And with the SWAG Awards, I would say now 100% of the time people are accepting it because they've either heard about it, they've been to the award ceremony, they've had a colleague that was recognized, and they're like, wow, this I love this experience. Some of the feedback that I get is when they come to the ceremony, it's like a culture of love. They feel love, they feel support, they feel community. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly the vibe that we were going for. And we sometimes you're going for a certain vibe or theme, and it may or may not, you know, happen that way. So I'm just grateful that that is what people are feeling. And the awardees have become grateful for us holding that space to take time to recognize them in front of their family members, in front of the community, in front of their colleagues. They get a couple moments to share their experience in the work. You know, they have the freedom to share whatever they need to. Obviously, we have to put a time limit on that because the ceremony is 2.5 hours long, but it's always heartfelt and it comes from the heart and people feel it. They experience it, and I'm just excited that people are constantly looking forward to the next one. This year I've had an awardee insist on driving to our home to deliver a handwritten letter and a small gift as her token of appreciation for us holding that ceremony. So during those times where we're overwhelmed and stressed out because planning events can be stressful, that's a reminder of, okay, this is the stage of the I guess, profession that I'm in. So, it started with like boots on the ground, frontline work, to being in more of a, I guess, a supervisory role, um, running a business. And now it's more about like community in a different type of way. So that warms my heart now to be able to serve in that way. And I look forward to it every year, just seeing the smiles on their faces and their families feeling proud and yelling their names out. That's my daughter, that's my son, like that. It just, somebody jumped up, that's my mama. The lady, she was stood up and was dancing. It's just like, wow, like that's exactly what we wanted. We deserve to smile because this work is hard. Like I remember those moments being in crisis with families, or with people who were suicidal, and having to make those tough calls, and to be able to see the other side of that, where we are happy and it's not doom and gloom, and we're able to celebrate the work versus just this stereotype of us being like exhausted and burned out all the time. I don't know if y'all have ever seen the movie Precious, but the way they depicted Mariah Carey on there as a social worker, I'm like, hey, that's not what we look like all the time. That's just not who we are. So I'm just happy that we get to rewrite that narrative.
Absolutely. No, thank you for sharing. I think everybody should. I mean, I love the mindset of not going, I'm not in this for awards. I mean, I'm not in none of my work for awards.
Right.
I think it's just, you see the need, and you serve. But just like as we get to Astrid in a minute about burnout, like when you serve, sometimes you do get burnt out. Sometimes there's a lot of mixed energies that you're having to deal with, and you have to really build yourself up daily just to be able to get outside or to handle the work that you do. And I always say, like, just in my work, it's like you're a therapist when you're not one. You're trying to help heal people. Like a lot of people, when they're comfortable with you, they will pour themselves out to you. And so sometimes just being acknowledged is good. So I really appreciate you sharing that, and just letting, again, hopefully somehow I have faith that this becomes something that I see big ads for at some point, because you guys are just making such strides, and now it's a nationwide thing. Like I have faith that it just blows up, because I think there's a lot of people that are in service, and I see it every day, and they get up every day because of their hearts calls them to do it. But sometimes you need your cup full too. And what it sounds like is that you're just filling cups up and letting people know, like, hey, this is what we do. We're not doing it for acknowledgement, but I see you anyway. And I know that from experience of my mom. My mom was my caregiver for a while before I got more independent. And I remember I was on actually like a TV show back then. And I remember just after me going through this healing, it was a moment where I was able to tell my mom, like, you're free now. Like, I want you to be able to live your life and do what you do. Now, 5-6 years later, she's like, listen, I need to come back over and help you out. I need to do, but it's been good to just see her do her thing, because I understood so much of the work that she put in to help me get to where I am. And so I guess that goes to Astrid. Like, I would love for you to, you wear a different hat, you know what I mean? And you have experience. And before, like, you kind of share the burnout process and things, I have conversations about individuals and when they are transitioning to adulthood, as you have shared. And could you share a little bit of, like, maybe just starting off with resources and things, like, are there here in Kansas City, there's not much after the 18-year-old phase, and so there's a lot of money that goes into children's services and activities and everything. And then once everyone hits 18, I always say, like, the perspective, that's when that perspective hits, because there's nothing after that. And so kind of like wanting you to share that, like what is the transition process that you've been dealing with, but then also is that if there isn't much of it, is that kind of becoming more of a weight because of that?
Hold on, sorry, I don't know if you saw me making, my son is actually upstairs making a lot of noise, so hopefully you cannot hear him. Let me see. This is it's a lot. Here in Pittsburgh, I'm going to talk in specific about my son, but my son can go to school until he's 21. So he was in school up until he was 21, and he got all his services through the school district, like PT, OT, speech. So he was able to do that. And so from the transition really starts here in Pittsburgh at 14. That's part of the IEP. But really, it's around 18 that all the major stuff, and it all has to be done at the same time. So, when Kai turned 18, we have to apply for SSI, which that was very hard. That was hard to do. And then we also have to do guardianship for him. I mean, he is, like I said, he has intellectual disability and autism. So he cannot make choices for himself, especially medical choices, and he has a feeding tube. So we have to do guardianship for him, which here in Pittsburgh, it's really hard to do because you have to hire a lawyer and you have to go into court and you have to pay for the lawyer. So it's not an easy thing to do, and it's very costly. So we did that. And after that, then we have to start working on what's going to happen after high school, which is at 21. Is there a date program? Where he's going to go. And a lot of our kids, especially those that have profound or are medically, have medical issues, a lot of them just end up being at home because there's no program for them to go. And then there's also no staffing for, to help either, to try to find staff in a habit or a caregiver other than the parents is very hard. Nursing and home nursing is also a very hard thing to staff. But that comes applying for waiver, which is another, it's very hard. There's, you have to apply for waiver. You have to start early on. And not everybody gets a waiver that they need because it's not an easy thing, especially right now. There's a huge wait list for waiver. So you have individuals that are 26 still waiting for waiver and just sitting at home because they don't have the money to go to a program or to hire people to come in into the home and help them. We were lucky. We were able to get a program for my son. So my son goes to a day program in Lawrenceville. So he's there 5 days a week and he loves it. And we also do other activities too, but that all falls on me. Like all the activities are going to open up. We go to other social events that other organizations, plan, but that all falls on me. So I'm the one that takes him to the day program and the one that takes him, to all these other events. So the caregiving for him falls in, with my husband and myself, which is okay. It's fine. That's something that we've been doing since he was born. So it's not, but there's like all this stages, like whenever he was in school, he went there all day. So now I'm in that stage where, what I have to plan what's going to happen when I'm not here, which is, it's mentally, it's exhausting because there's really not much out there to help on what we can basically plan for him. I don't know, I know what it's like right now. So trying to think of who's going to do all of this stuff when I'm not here, it's very hard. And, is it a group home the best thing for him? If finding him a home where I can just, plan like a managed care type of thing so that there are people to care for him. Will that work better for him? But then how do you do that? How do you find the people? How do you trust that the people are going to there to care for him? So, and I think that's where, personally, that's where I'm at right now, because he's okay right now. He has a program, he has his social events to go to, but if something happens to me, how is he going to get there? Or if something happens to the program that he's in right now, if like tomorrow they cut Medicaid and there's no more program from him, then he's back at home. So those are and that's why I feel like I'm in a burnout phase right now, because that's all I can think about. And I used to run, and I used to go hiking. I used to do trail run, and I used to be in the middle of the woods hiking, like thousands of, elevation, like it was just, I did Rachel Carson. I have done the Pittsburgh Marathon a bunch of times, but now I'm like, what if I get hurt? Like what if I in the middle of the woods and I fall and I hit my head and I get a concussion? So that's been stopping me from doing the stuff that I like. So I've been pouring myself into helping other people go through all the stages of transition, because it wasn't easy for me at all. And I was able to quit my job because my husband has a stable job. So I was able to quit my job of 25 years to just concentrate on the care, for Kai. But I also have, like I said, I have a husband that can support us. And he also is, we're both college educated, people. So we were able to like maneuver this whole journey of, guardianship, SSI, waiver. But not everybody is like that. You have single parents, you have grandparents taking care of their kids, so it's not an easy thing to do at all. And a lot of the help that I received through this journey, I got it from other parents, that have already gone through it. So that's why I started this, Facebook group, so that parents can come in and find the resources, also network and find other parents, that can help. And that's how we help each other. What's the best service? How can you get this waiver? What did you do to be able to find these resources for yourself? That kind of thing. So we share a lot of information in that group, and that's also why I started the caregiver support, the caregivers yoga class that opened up, because we have a group of parents that we meet a lot. We meet weekly sometimes. And, we always ended up going to coffee shop and eating. And, so it was kind of like, we should be doing something that is healthier. So I reached out to open up, and I'm like, what about a caregiver class? That way we're doing something. Movement. And also we learn how to breathe and how to relax. And so it's starting, like I said, it's been a lifesaver for me, because I have anxiety all the time because of everything, carrying my son and trying to like do all this like scheduling with like appointments, programs, social events. So I have a lot of anxiety about that. So, so these classes have teach me how to, breathe, relax, center myself, and then have some movement, kind of like to calm me down. So that has helped a lot. So, I don't know where else I wanted to go here, but I can stop.
I wanted to jump in and just have us as a group just take a big breath, a big inhale in, and rest our shoulders. Because it is a lot, and life is lifing. And I really understand what you're saying about what if something happens to me, because I've just gone through a 6-month period where something really happened to me. And it's like, oh, I can't cook. I can't walk. I can't get up. I can't, and it affects your well-being, and it affects the entire family. And I hear you when you're talking about that anxiety, and I feel it. And you're such a doer, because you're like, hey, can you guys do a class? And so we started a class, and hopefully you could do more. That breathing made me think of Sharise, because I sat in a workshop of hers. I've known her for a long, long time, like in circles, acquaintances or whatnot. And then I sat in one of her workshops, and I was like, it was for teachers, right? Wasn't it for...
the unconference. Yeah, I think it was for educators.
Yeah. And you had a lot of methods in there around breathing and taking care of yourself. So I'm curious about
after hearing Astrid's story. And I saw Sharise like, like it sounds like you understand.
Yeah, I hear that. And I just Astrid, I remember doing some of that work with families who had similar stories as yours, and just being really young when I was doing it. And I'm grateful for that, because it helped me to become a more well-rounded person. And you're absolutely right. Most of the families I worked with, they were single moms and they needed a lot of help. So I found myself, even though they're kids, I was a therapeutic support staff and a mobile therapist through wraparound services. And I was helping children who were on the autistic spectrum, who were nonverbal, who needed help with social skills. I was in a school with them doing interventions. I was in a community with them doing interventions. And I was in a home setting doing interventions. And I would do that. But I also would see another need where the parents needed a lot of support navigating these systems. And it's sad because they would get shut down, they wouldn't get heard. But then when I would get on there and I would throw around my credentials, now we're getting some answers. Now we're getting some action. And I was happy to be able to do that. But I'm like, what if I wasn't here? You know, they wouldn't have gotten the things that they needed. And this was back in the early 2000s. So I can't even imagine, you know, what it's like today. So I hear you. And I just remember that journey for so many of the parents that I worked with. And I don't have any children. And what I'll say is that one of my biggest fears is, if I get injured or if I get sick, who is going to take care of all of these things? Like, who's going to, you know, run this household? Me and my husband, he's capable, but he's not me. Hope he doesn't hear me. Who is going to, you know, the businesses? You know, we have a full staff, you know, people who rely on us to get these things done. You know, they left their full-time jobs and trusted us to, you know, put all of their full-time efforts, and we got to make sure this ship keeps moving. And there were times when I'm waking up at 3 a.m. at night, in the middle of the night, and thinking about these things. So I do keep a journal on the side of my bed so I can just write down my thoughts and then go back to sleep, because there have been times where I've stayed up all night and I'm like, I really wanted to go to the gym at 5 or 6, but I'm too tired. And at this stage in my life, I have to choose sleep. Like, I cannot, you know, do things. I can't, you know, go through an intense workout and I'm super exhausted. Like, that's just not good for my nervous system right now. But I definitely keep a journal by my bed so I can write down my thoughts. And I try to be mindful of how I end my day, even though, or really my sleep hygiene routine, like how I'm transitioning into bedtime. It doesn't always work, but I do try to be super intentional by doing some type of wind down before I go to bed, so that I can try to get a good night's rest. I'm just learning more and more how important sleep is. It really is a foundation for everything that we're trying to do. Many of us get burned out because of the lives, so many people who rely on us, and it causes us to be sleep deprived. Well, I don't know about you. When I'm sleep deprived, I am not the most pleasant person. I just have a really hard time. So for me, I have to do things to organize my life around that. And it works out a lot of the times, but there are times where it just doesn't. And I also believe in transitions. And I actually learned about transitions when I was working with children who were on the spectrum. Transitions were hard. You know, trying to, you know, remind them and prepare them that we're going to be transitioning from this activity to the next one, or we're going to be going from school to getting on a bus and going home. And they'll, okay. And then when it's time to do it, there's a full out like tantrum because like you're changing up this routine. And then I think about us as adults, we are not mindful about our transitions. We go from task to task to task, thing to thing to thing, without even taking like a 30-second breath to just release that energy and prepare ourselves to be more mindful of how we want to move in to the next transition. So I try to take at least 2 minutes to like just take a deep breath. If I'm standing up, like rocking side to side, like doing some type of movement, let me release this energy and let me think about how I want to go into the next activity. What energy do I want to bring? How can I be more mindful? How do I want to show up? And it's very helpful because we go through probably hundreds of transitions throughout the day. When we wake up in the morning, that's a transition. When we're getting out of bed, when we're leaving our home and going to traffic, going to work and doing all of those things are transitions. And if we're just mindlessly moving through them, that can be a huge contributor to us being burned out, because there's just a pile up of all of this stuff that we're not being intentional about releasing. It just sits on our nervous systems, and it puts us in a constant state of like reactivity, where we're constantly in survival and feeling like we're on go. And then when somebody, like when I'm doing those workshops, April, most of our colleagues just cannot relax. It is very hard for them to be still for a 2 to 3 minute mindfulness meditation technique. And I get it, because they are wired to be on go, and it doesn't feel safe for them to like slow down and have this moment of stillness, because their nervous system is trained to be on go. So we're trying to help them make this shift to activate the relaxation part of their nervous system. And that takes time. You got to give yourself a lot of grace. You know, it's a practice. It's not about perfecting it, but it is about giving ourselves grace and space to be able to do that.
That was a word, and I was taking notes. I'm going to share in a newsletter about this being a practice. Go ahead, Astrid.
I just wanted to add to that. When I first started going to the caregiver yoga class, I think we're down to like almost a year and a half, I think. I cannot remember. But when I first started going to the yoga class, and I have done yoga before. I mean, I did hot yoga like years before when I first started running. But like running for some reason was, I don't know, I got more out of it of running than I did of yoga at that time. So, you know, so I stick with running. I stick with trail running and hiking. But when I first started with going to open up for the caregivers yoga class, you know, because I have a Garmin and I had track all, my stats through my Garmin. The first few class, my stress levels were the highest. And I was just sitting there. I was just literally just breathing. And I just, and it was to the point that a couple of times I felt like I was having a panic attack. And I'm just literally just laying there. And I couldn't figure out why. Eventually with practice, because I went every week, it got better. But yeah, at first it was very hard for me just to stay still. So I just wanted to add that.
No, thanks for sharing that. That's really important. The practice.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Letty, for sharing. And again, just because I'm learning through the work I'm doing at Astrid, trust me, I really appreciated all the information that you shared. I think even just through this conversation, you probably just became a voice for so many people that probably didn't know how to say it, and because you did it so well. And there aren't many. I see people that have the ability to care because they have some type of spousal support or something like that. But then I also see people at, later on in life that are trying to, like you said, plan for the next things. And that becomes something that's very hard. And so I hope that, as we have people that are listening to this, is even myself and my work, that we are, trying to actively find different spaces and resources that families can know, encouraging individuals, that might have a passion to creating something for the transitional phase, to continue to try to do that with and try to be their support. Because I haven't seen much even in my local area. I do see things falling back on the parents. And I think that's probably why my mom just kind of took the initiative, like, I got you, I'm gonna be your legs when you don't have them and things like that. But then there was a time where I guess from my lens, I was able to see, the pressure, of like, yeah, she's doing it all, but I see it, you know, sometimes you just see it, and it can be hard, you know. And so I think you did a great job. You know, like with activities like Open Up and like you said, the yoga and the practices, and probably even being able to go grab some lunch and a coffee before you get back home is probably something that's really a moment of stillness and peace for you that can kind of just help you feel that normalcy of life and then go back into some of the work that you have to do. I think all of us like a quick little coffee break. You know, it's hard for me to say that no one doesn't, because I'm like, you want to go get coffee? And I know just for that 30, 45 minutes, it can really be something that's good. You know, you get to vent or just be around like-minded people. You get to talk about experiences, maybe learn how to navigate yours a little bit better. So again, like, I want people to know that support is important. And, you know, and even for caregivers, you know, there are so many different levels to caregiving. Like right now, like my mom, I still consider her my caregiver, but she's not present all the time. You know, she's kind of, when I need her on call, then there's others that need someone day in, day out from the moment they get up to the time they go to bed. And that is a different level of pressure. I won't say stress, but there's just a different level of pressure because you're also having to take care of your own well-being to be able to be your full self for someone else. So I guess what Sharise saying about rest, rest is important, especially in these different fields, because I mean, yes, April, I'm normally up at 5 a.m. and going to the gym, but lately I've just realized I've just been doing a little bit more in my day to day. And so my weekends have become more of my rest times, my slow mornings, where I just kind of become more productive about what I need to do to set up my week. Sometimes I can go. And then next thing I know, during my week, I'm like, I didn't do this. I didn't do that. Like, you know, when you're serving, sometimes you forget to even serve yourself, and you got to pick a day or a moment to do that. And so I'm trying to take away you don't gotta go to sleep. You can just go out here and grind and get up and do it. And yeah, that's cool. But, you know, maybe you need to go sit in the sun for a second, you know, go listen to the birds chirping. Like, you know, April was sharing with us, like, you know, don't put the AirPods in your ear. Don't listen to anything. Just go out and just take a moment, you know, to just, yes, it's very important. So what I get from this is that having support groups are very valuable to those that are in service. And I think that I think we miss that a lot. You know, I think we really do. Because, yeah, I think I've had people ask me like, oh, are you creating a support group for people with spinal cord injury? I'm like, yeah, we're going to do it. And like, but what about the caregivers too? Are you going to do something separate for the caregivers? Like, you know, and I've really had to start to think about that as we're kind of building out new things. It's because, I mean, I see people when they drop individuals off at our program, like, all right, it's 1 hour. I'll be back. I'm about to go. You know, it's like, yeah, deuces, I'm out of here. And it's not like even a bad thing. And for me, I'm like, yes, go enjoy yourself. Go take that hour, take a little bit more time if you need it. But it's that level of like, through service, we're able to see the individuals and sometimes the burdens that they have. And so to be able to create a space where that you can let them know that they are cared for too. And again, you guys are, Sharise and Astrid, you're on different spectrums of it, because Sharise, you're doing it through the awards, you're doing it through your work, you're doing it through, you know, your talks and probably a lot of different practices that you're going. And then Astrid, you're going and you're finding the support through programs and things that kind of navigate with even what you do on your day to day. But it sounds like that support that rather you're providing or that you're receiving has been valuable to so many. And so I really just thank you guys for sharing that, because this is me from my disability standpoint, but there are a lot of programs out here that serve us and serve the things, but sometimes even the programs don't really consider the pressure of, like, if I need you to come 5 days a week, but you have to go to like 3-4 other places within that. That's probably what Sharise is like. You got to take 2 minutes to transition to that to process that transition, because now you're like, oh man, all right, we got this to do. 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 But everything has a process. Me getting out the car and getting back in the car is a process. So I can only imagine, no one considers that all the time, of like what that transition time is for everyone. Like if you just used all your muscles and strength to do one practice, you might need a moment before you have to engage in that again. So again, I just wanted to thank you guys for sharing, but also helping me understand it even more of like what we can be doing a little bit more, and better. It's not, it really helps. So I hope that this helps for so many that are watching as well, because this is valuable information.
I have taken notes and minutes, and community care stood out to me too. In all these areas, like Sharise, you having that award and that support and acknowledging those who do the work. And it's not, like you said, it's not to be braggadocious or anything. It's just like, as human beings, it feels good to know that you are honored. And I think the same thing, Astrid, when we talk about community care, you're like, just that hour and a half, 2 hours, being able to go out with other caregivers and being able to share in a different way, because not everyone understands, not everyone is in that position, and there's no right or wrong or anything around that. But having somebody, seeing a reflection of yourself in somebody else is so important. The transitions, Sharise, thank you for sharing that, because I feel like that's something that's tangible that you can do right now. I don't know. What do you, and we have to go pretty soon, but Astrid, do you think that, like in your situation, like, oh, let me just take a minute to stop and breathe, you think that's supportive and helpful of leveling your nervous system while you're going through such a stressful time?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I still do try to take like a day off where I just don't do anything. Normally I would be running or hiking. Now I'm so exhausted. And because of the time, the time limit that I have, I still just go home and like do nothing and watch an old show, or binge on an old show or something like that. Just be by myself, and that helps a lot too. I do feel guilty because I'm like, oh, I should be running or I should be doing something physical, but I'm so mentally exhausted that I just, trying to figure out, where do I go? How much can I run? I have to be here at this time, so just sitting down and just doing nothing. Even if it's only for like half an hour, that helps, that helps a lot. But Sharise, I just wanted to let you know that, we do value our people that, that care for my son. He's in a day program, so he has a staff of 13 people that take care of 25 individuals with disabilities. So we do an appreciation day. I think it's a DSP day. There's a day, so we always make sure that me and my husband, we let them know, that we appreciate them. We either bring donuts or bring, something for them, but we tell our the staff at Milestone how much we appreciate them, and they love Kai and they take care of Kai. So, and I'm always there because I'm the one that dropped him out. So I make sure that I let them know that that they're valuable to us, by caring for Kai so well. So just wanted to throw that in.
Thank you for that.
No, I love that. I love that.
I was going to say, and I was thinking of you, Sharise. First of all, I wish everyone was on a level playing field economically. Like the early childhood education, the social worker, like teachers, janitors. Like, I wish everyone made a living wage and had enough to be able to thrive in a way, right? With that being said, like the tools you shared, Sharise, and Astrid sharing your experience, and even Wes and I, those are things money cannot buy. And those are things that are, you know, the nervous system is a nervous system, and the nervous system may or may not know you make $1 million a year, or $2 million a year, right? Like some people are really rich, and there's mental health things that are really inhibiting them from living their best life. You know, people are committing suicide across the spectrum, across race, across gender, across just, there's an intersectionality to all of this. So I want to share with the audience, like we are trying to share some human experiences that we feel like can support us all. It's 11 a.m. It's like our time to end, and I have ideas. Last month we spoke with Derek Schaffner and Donald Robinson about wellness and functionality and movement, and Derek worked in movement and with the Paralympics and all of that. And now today I'm motivated again. Wes, we're going to get our hike, because Wes goes in the mountains and he does trails, and we're going to do, oh, Michelle Walker said, when you're serving, you forget to serve yourself. That is the truth. Thank you, Michelle. That's a quote that she extracted from you all and posted it on Facebook.
Hey, Michelle.
See? I'm going to follow up with Sharise and Astrid and ask them for some things that they do. I'm going to listen to this and put it in our newsletter. I hope you do get the Open Up newsletter, the Open Spaces one specifically. And if you don't, let us know. If you know someone, or if you would like to be a speaker in this wellness space and the intersectionality of disabilities, please let us know. And also I shared with Sharise that we have some modules where we're teaching that can support teachers, support staff, social workers, like the whole realm. I'm doing the one on yoga appreciation and understanding the roots of yoga. So that's going to be in June. I'll share that. Go ahead, Sharise.
And Michelle actually does a lot of work in the disability space. Michelle that just commented, she has a consulting company called Linden Ear. So she might be a good person to connect with.
All right, Michelle, we're going to connect. Like next month, Michelle, we have her scheduling. But yeah, in June, I'm doing a thing on yoga appreciation, because again, yoga has been westernized and it's been very white-centered, and it came from a brown space. So we're going to help instructors understand the history and the lineage of it. So happy Sunday. I hope we all have a good week and we're able to heal. We have some things that we are shared that we're healing from. And Wes, I appreciate you taking rest over this weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Great. You too. Thank you, Astrid. Thank you, Sharise.
Bye. Thank you.